Minasan konnichiwa. A couple nights ago, I tried to make a video where I talked about Japanese service industry and that presentation that I had to make that I talked about in my last video. And I'll review a little bit of that in a minute. But that was also the same night that my order of a case of Napa Valley wine arrived. And I drank a considerable amount of it. It was delicious. I still have a couple more bottles that I look forward to very much. Maybe they'll make an appearance on the Aero channel shortly. But then I sat down and I started making a video, and I turned out to just be really too drunk to put some coherent thoughts together. So I'll try to do that now. No guarantees, because stringing together coherent thoughts is not one of my strong suits. But I try to do this anyway, so maybe that's why we're here. That's why I'm here, is so learn how to communicate properly. Even though a lot of what I do for work is talk and presentation. So whatever, irony. Let's see what happens. What I reviewed a little bit in my last video was the fact that I had been up all night partying prior to having to make a presentation, a big presentation. People were coming, coming to New York from all over the world to hear me do this presentation. And I manage, for my job, I don't intend to get into it at all, but I manage people in the service industry, particularly in the Japanese service industry, servicing Japanese clientele. And we're getting, kind of obviously, I mean, some people who are higher on the corporate chain look at the numbers of the people that service Japanese clientele, and they say, man, we're really doing poorly here, and you really got to turn it around. But kind of obviously, to anybody who's familiar with Japan and probably watching J-vlogs or familiar with the service industry in Japan, we're getting killed by Japanese companies in the same industry, and that just kind of probably makes sense to a lot of people. I work for an American company. I've got a lot of American employees, some Japanese employees, but even they are quite Americanized, working in America, working for an American company. So this has been the problem. Now, we had at the end of my presentation, we had an open forum, and a lot of defeatist comments, a lot of mo akiramemashita. Like, we're never going to get there. We can't reach. How can we possibly compete with these Japanese companies? And I really hate that, not just as a manager, but also as somebody who has spent enough time in Japan to understand the service industry and what they're really all about. And I don't mean to knock anybody, but is it really so far out of grasp to say, can we be attentive to people's needs the entire time that we're on the job? Can we be polite, use complete sentences? Can we try to anticipate people's needs? The Japanese people do this extremely well in the service industry. Not all Japanese people, but in the service industry, that is an expectation, and you find it in most places in Japan. So that is, to their credit. But to say that that's so far out of reach, I think is a little defeatist and something that I don't really care for. But there are also things in the Japanese service industry, kind of the point that I want to make, that really, they will certainly treat everyone like an individual, but they won't necessarily go out of a strict, rigid set of standards or rules to make sure that you're taken care of as an individual. As you may expect, Japan is a more rigid culture. At work, people take their jobs more seriously than, I don't want to say Americans, because that's not necessarily true, but than Americans are perceived often. I struggle to see why we have a defeatist attitude, and we think that we're so far behind and we can't attain, the same level of customer service as people in Japan. Here I am, and now I feel like I'm making a presentation to the world. I'm making a presentation to YouTube watchers and saying, why don't you guys do your jobs better? Man, what a dick, right? Oh God, I'm the worst. That was completely just educational and informative. A little bit of my perceptions about the Japanese customer service. I'm certainly not preaching to anybody because I'm freaking nobody. Gonna go to work now. Today what did I used the word akiramemashita, or akirameru would be the dictionary form of that word. That means to give up. Akirameru. I'm giving up. I quit. So that wouldn't necessarily be what you would say when you quit your job, but rather like just to give up on something, a project or a person. But never give up on your dreams. Yume o akiramenai de kudasai. Until next time, I will see you soon. Please subscribe, Erojero channel. Sorry for such a boring ass video today. I really did preach. I could have done better. I should have done. You deserve better. So I'll find something fun to talk about next time. All my love. Oh, and by the way, like I said in that last video, I did knock it out of the park. I totally did own that presentation. So it was probably your support and just believing in me, and that's such bullshit.